most importantly, we have the X factor that will determine just how high gold goes before the end of the year. Everybody wants to know, why is gold not above $2,000 right now today? We got three things we need to talk about. Number one, what the Fed did this week with interest rates, what that means. Number two, the GDP numbers that came out, what that means. And number three, the inflation numbers that we got this morning. But most importantly, we have the X factor that will determine just how high gold goes before the end of the year. I see it going much, much higher. As a matter of fact, it should be above $2,000 right now. But let's start by talking about the Fed. They did exactly what I and everyone else predicted. They raised rates by 0.25%. They met expectations everywhere. They checked every expectation box. There was no real surprise out of the Fed. They did say they don't think there's a recession coming. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in this video. But that alone was just exactly what everybody expected and would have led the gold price to going much, much higher. But point number two was we got GDP numbers this week. Yes, the U.S. economy, it's booming. Joe Biden is pulling off an economic miracle. Can't you feel it? I mean, it's great. You can go out there and get yourself a second, a third, or really even a fourth job if you need to. The economy grew at an astounding 2.4%. That was a big surprise yesterday, if we believe the numbers. Nonetheless, it knocked silver and gold out at their knees. It was a horrible day to own precious metals, even more so if you own precious metal mining stocks. But remember, guys, do we believe those numbers? Number one, and is 2.4% really that great, astounding of a GDP growth number? We heard from China earlier in the week, who grew at like a 6.4, 6.6% annual rate, almost 3 times that of the United States, and they're the world's second largest economy. They might just be gaining on us. We need to keep an eye on China. Thirdly, today we get the inflation numbers, and inflation's coming down. They were a surprise to the downside. Can't you tell? When you go to the grocery store and you go to get yourself a box of Oreos that used to cost $2.50 and now cost $5.50, well, no joke. Maybe inflation has slowed down, but they've killed us over the last 12 to 18 months with inflation. What about fuel prices? What about housing prices? What about anything? Nonetheless, from a precious metals perspective, that's been good for the price of silver and gold right now. Today's Friday. As I film this, the price of gold is up about $15 per ounce. Silver up about 20 cents per ounce, not making up all that it lost on the prior day. But now, let's talk about the X factor, okay? We consider those three things. The Fed raising rates, GDP coming in greater than expected, and finally, inflation coming down. Now, we have some analysts who are saying, well, maybe in September the Fed won't raise rates after all because inflation's coming down. The big thing nobody's talking about is the lag effect of the last 18 months aggressive interest rate raises by the Federal Reserve. It's called a lag effect, guys. We need to hammer this into our heads. It takes 6 to 9 to 12 months for the effects of an interest rate hike to be felt in the economy. So that means we're just now starting to feel the effects of the interest rate hikes, which the Fed did 12 months ago. And we've got a big series of hikes that are going to be feeding into the U.S. economy, coming at us like a freight train. And the Fed is going to be forced to loosen up on their monetary policy. Now, when that happens, that makes the price of gold and silver shoot to the moon. That's why I think as we head into the end of the year, we're going to be coming into an environment that is so conducive for higher silver prices, higher gold prices, higher platinum prices. Everything that's real will be going up because the Fed will be forced to further dilute the value of the U.S. dollar. Don't forget that since 1913, right, the dollar has lost like 97% of its value. What do you think's going to happen this time? If we look at history as any indicator, we know what's going to happen. What's J.P. Morgan telling us to do? J.P. Morgan is telling us, yes, that J.P. Morgan, we know they know a thing or two about the price of gold and silver now, don't we? J.P. Morgan is saying that 2024 will usher in a new era for gold in particular, and we know what that means for silver. J.P. Morgan is calling for record high gold prices in 2024. I'll tell you how it's going to play out. We're going to get to a new record, nominal record, $2,100, $2,150 per ounce in gold. And once it breaks through to that level, for a number of reasons, one of which is the massive cup and handle pattern. One of which is once it gets above into new all-time high, there's nobody left up there saying, well, I'm going to sell gold when it gets to $2,150 because that's what I paid for it. Nobody paid that. It's clear sailing from $2,150 to $2,600, from $2,100 to $2,600. My prediction is once we get to that new level, right, that new high, it's going to shoot up to $2,600, $2,700 per ounce gold price very, very quickly. Now, what will that do for silver? Silver's going to lag a little bit, okay? Silver's going to take a little while to get its feet. But when silver does, we could also see new all-time highs for silver next year as well. And you know the story, the thesis behind why silver prices need to go much higher. And it's not just J.P. Morgan saying this. I'm going to beat the table. You guys need to look up Double Line Capital, $76 billion financial investment firm started by Jeffrey Gundlach, one of the most respected people on Wall Street. This guy tells it like it is. What's Double Line saying? Double Line is saying that in 2024, we're likely going to be in a situation where the Federal Reserve and our old friend Jerome Powell, he's going to be faced to cut rates by 1 full percent. Guys, as we look out into the next 6, even 18 months, it appears we're going to be moving into an environment very conducive for much, much higher silver and gold prices. I understand. I know it's hard to believe, right? Especially with what you've been through over the last 18 to 24 months. But it does stop raining. The sun does come out again. And when the sun comes out, it's going to be making beautiful reflections off your pile of silver, and maybe you have a little pile of gold as well. Hey, this is just my opinion. Don't make any financial decisions based on anything I say. Do your own work, do your own due diligence, and make sure you come back and see me again here in Ron's Basement. Be well.